yo, what do you know? This is Rabbit of ScrubLeet Academy, and we are back in Dito today. And today, what I'm going to actually do for you, I'm going to show off Warlock, because I mentioned a while ago, Warlock is a generally easy class to play the game solo with. Now, this, keeping in mind, this is actually Elite mode and below, because Reaper mode has completely different mechanics, but as a new player, you probably won't even see what those mechanics are for a while. So it doesn't really matter as much. In fact, for normal mode, you won't see the Elite mode mechanics either, because what you start off with as a new player is access to normal mode. You don't get access to hard mode or Elite mode until you've gotten a little bit further in the game, or you party with somebody who's already unlocked that mode, then you can join that mode. There's a couple of other ways to do it, but really this is what you get for a new player. You start off with normal mode, and in normal mode, once again, you're going to love your Warlock. You're going to absolutely adore it. So why don't we go ahead, enter a dungeon, I'll just show you how it works, and honestly, I'll go into Elite mode because I've gotten to that stage, and I'm going to show you that it works at the top echelon of what a new player is going to experience, generally speaking. So here we are. I've just picked up the quest Night Falls on Stormreach. It's a little bit of a tougher quest, it's a newer quest, and we're going to try it out and see if we can manage to win this. And I'll get to show off some of the Warlock mechanics, and then kind of like my Sun Elf build video, I'm going to go over what I did to get to at least to level 15, as you can see on screen here. Level 15 Warlock. I'll show you how I got to this point and what I chose along the way. Alright, so last time, basically what we did is we had a party helping us along. We're not going to have that same luxury this time. We're just going to go ahead and move through this dungeon at our own pace. Throw on some basic buffs as we've got up here. We have Blur, Night Shield. Those two are absolutely essential. If you want to ever make any class that you have that has access to Blur and Night Shield, you're probably going to want to take those two. So what I've done here is I've actually taken the Cone type of Eldritch Blast right there. So the Cone is accessible in Soul Eater, which in my opinion is easily the best of the enhancement trees you'll have access to. Ooh, water breathing, nice. Now, as a Warlock, you don't have access to healing, so what you'll want to do is make sure that you're always topped up with the temp HP. And I'll show you where to get that in just a moment here. There we go. Alright, so, with the temp HP that you get from Tainted Scholars. So, it is the best for a 4-point investment pretty much all the time. You always want to take Feigned Health as you get there, just to make sure you have that extra security blanket, and honestly, I can see taking some points to get more Pact Dice, which increases your damage output. But then, I just go pretty much pure in Soul Eater. Look at how much stuff I've got here. I love Consume, I love Stricken, and these get much more powerful as you go along the line. So basically, Soul Eater is an incredible debuff tree. So what a debuff tree is it basically minimizes certain statistics of an opponent. So it makes them weaker, effectively. But see how many creatures we just got there? We can pretty much clean up everything without trying. And we might want to wait for our tendrils to come back just a little. Well, actually, I'm going to show you how it works without tendrils. So we don't really need them, as you can tell. It's better for security, but generally we're just going to try to jank out these guys here. We have tons of temp HP to keep us going, and we'll just get rid of them. So I've gone ahead and actually added on the Ring of Baphomet twice. I don't know if the curse actually, or if the HP, the temp HP proc, works off of either one independently or if there's an internal cooldown. That I'm not entirely sure of. If you guys know, definitely throw it in the comments section and maybe we'll get a discussion going on that, because that'll be really interesting. I have no clue. But notice we're not even having difficulty with crowns. We're not having difficulty with the champions. It's pretty straightforward. Let's drop the tentacles and let's just go ahead and get rid of everything, because that is what we can get away with. And we are doing a ton of damage, and this is such an easy run. And as you can tell by the green blasts of my Eldritch Blast, I tend to use Acid for this character. But let's just go see how it works on a boss. This is the first boss, so, you know, might be a little more... Well, technically, it's the second boss, but there we go. Capture all those guys, make sure we avoid as much as possible, and get rid of all of that. And I think we just pushed him to the second phase of his mechanics there without even trying. And let's go ahead and use one of our stanch right now. And you see how much temp HP we got there. It's starting to feel very barbarian in here now. And that's one of the big things, is this is, you know, this Warlock plays a lot like a barbarian does. And that's one of the biggest reasons why it's such a great solo tune. Now, mind you, the Barbarian's Blood Tribute is a little easier to access than Stanch, You can get it at an earlier level. It's a much better ability to use low level. And it's actually much easier to use. It's just a click button, where this one we have to generate charges. Alright, this is one of the 2 scary areas in this dungeon. So we're going to want to be very careful here. I'm going to just throw my buffs back on. And boom. Alright, so we've got them all subdued. And this is kind of what we were hoping for. Because then those will spawn, and we can just go ahead and start getting rid of them. Oh! Nope, this is a little scary. This is a little scary. This is a little scary. Whew. Alright, well, let's throw a bit of temp HP back on. I think the best thing for us to do is just use some of our magic and drop that. And that should help clean them up a little bit, right? Oh no, they're avoiding it! Well, we'll do this! Alright. So a little scary. I took way more damage there than I should have. Absolutely took way more damage than I should have. And make sure that you solve this puzzle, and it's actually there that we want to solve it. Yes. So there we go. There's your solution all the way across. I'm just going to zoom into that. Yep. And that will disable the traps up here. Once the traps up here are disabled, we can go right through. All right, let's throw that on him. There. That should start cleaning things up. And we'll just go ahead and get rid of him. Wow, that was a lot of extra damage. Oh no, the eyeballs! Ba-da-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, they can do a lot to you. You always want to make sure you take them out in sequence. You don't want to get them all at once, like I've been doing. Tendrils is very dangerous sometimes. So honestly, we're not doing too bad. We'll have access to that shrine, unless they gated this. Hopefully they didn't. But we're going to pop a stanch right now, and let that sort of go on cooldown, so we'll have it when we need it. And this should open the door by ringing the doorbell. Alright, there we go. And that will get rid of most of them. It won't get rid of all of them, but it drops most of them, which is kind of what we're hoping for. And let's drop another one, get rid of all that. Lots of remnants sitting here. Lots and lots of remnants. And come on, come on, come on. Yes, tentacles are back. So we can get rid of all of this and not worry. And we have our stanch for the boss fight, but it looks like we're not even going to need it. Let's just heal up here. Very easy, very easy. Alright, so that's how it plays out. Very decent. The only skeptical moment we had there was when I decided that I was going to take on all the eyeballs at once, which was a very dangerous thing and not recommended at all. But otherwise, it was an easy dungeon, absolutely no difficulty. So let's go to the build part of this video and see how I'm making it thus far. So I decided to go someplace a little more well-lit, a little more illuminated, just to showcase things a little easier. So I guess basically, we'll start where we always start, right here on the character sheet. So what do you want from here? Well, obviously, always charisma. That's your build stat. Doesn't really matter what else you take. Charisma, dump the rest in con, and just have a secondary stat or whatever. Like, I chose wisdom. It'll work. Skills, well, once again, skills you're not really too robust on. You've got use magic device, spellcraft, and then you're just kind of free to take what you want. I chose intimidate, and I have a few points in concentration. Remember which pact dice you choose, because the pact dice will choose what your third spell type is. Since I'm acid, it works off of spellcraft, so it's all self-contained. Speaking of pact, we are at the Warlock feats, where our pact is. So let's deconstruct this, because the list is a little long right now. Yep, you can see how many of these things I actually have, but we're not going to have to worry too much about this. I'll break things down a lot easier. So basically, all of these are spells or abilities that work off of our pact, and our pact is right here. We are in a pact with the Great Old One, who uses acid damage. So pretty straightforward. You need acid damage, and you also have force damage for your Eldritch Blasts. So there's not too much to worry about. And then all of the feats that you get in here are just feats you would get along the way. You might want to take just a quick gander at a guide on, say, Dido Compendium or Dido Wiki, or just listen to somebody on the forums, or hear a video like this, telling you which packs you might want to take, but for the most part, I'm not going to go into that. Everything that you get here is just stuff you'll get in your pact. Or, in some cases, like Deceive Item, it's stuff you'll get from leveling up as a Warlock. So, it really isn't too complex. It seems like it's a lot more than it is. Spellcasting feats, well, basically, I'm a damager. That's my desire here. That's how I wanted to build this tune, so I went for Spell Focus Evocation to increase the DCs of my Eldritch Blast. But I chose that. You get magical training for free, so you don't have to worry too much about that. I am an SMR, it's not a very good strategy, but I'm looking for a past life. That's basically all I'm doing this for. Meta magics: empower, heighten, maximize, quicken. The order you want to take them, probably maximize, then empower, then quicken. Heighten is something that you can fill the space with once you get tentacles, so it'll be a little later. Other than that, there's nothing that you really have to worry about. The rest of this is all just specific to me, how I did the character, favor feats, past lives. I've already kind of gone through a few of those myself. It's stuff that you could do, but it's not going to really matter for a first life tune as much. Alright, spells. So far, since I'm level 15, I have access to level 5 spells, and I'm really just taking the basic ones. I'm taking Protection from Elements Mass. I really like the extra damage reduction. Teleport's a must-have. Evard's a must-have. Death Ward and Dominate I'm getting from my Pact. Death Ward is great to have, definitely. Dominate, it doesn't really matter. From here, Dimension Door and Haste, in my opinion, are the must-haves. Anything else is pretty much just a toy. Level 2, well, I believe the spells that I took were Blur and Invisibility. Yes, they were, because you get Knock as a great old one, and the Web spell you get simply going through one of the trees, which I think was Tainted Scholar. As for here, Jump, Night Shield, those are the only two spells you'll really need to look at. Everything else you can pretty much just ignore. But conveniently, you do get Featherfall if you decide to go into the Tainted Scholar tree, which for at least 12 points is pretty much a must-have to try and get this thing off the ground. It's a bit more of a slow burn than your standard melee or your standard specialist. So keep that in mind. Pretty much every caster is a bit more of a slow burn. So it'll probably take you a couple of levels to get the feel for the game. Enhancements, really straightforward. Once again, I'm SMR, but I don't have access to my healing hands because I would need to use my bond, and the bond interferes with your pact. This one right here. So, you cannot use a pact while you are in a bond form, from the SMR stance, for example. Don't worry about it at all, it doesn't even matter. I can't access it, so it's basically like those points aren't even there. Tainted Scholar, well, I'm up 21 points so far, but here's how you want to level. First things first, boom, 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 and go all the way up. Everything else that you take is just nice to have along the way. Utter Dark Blast can be good later, but at the low to mid game, it's not nearly as big a deal as it seems. Other than that, Soul Eater. Take pretty much everything. I've got a bunch of different things here. My special recommendations, obviously, Consume and Stricken are huge, huge spells to damage people. Alright, and other than that, I tend to take a lot of the debuff effects all the way up, everything that I can. I take Cone because I feel like Cone does a lot more damage than a lot of other AoE options, especially at this level. Chain is also a nice substitute. Chain is right there, so you could take that for really low-level stuff, and honestly, I would recommend that over the standard Eldritch Blast, but I tend to take Cone. It's kind of a preferential thing there. Cone is a little more powerful, but it doesn't home in on targets, so you have that lack. Now, depending on if you take Necromancy or Enchantment spells, which I tend not to bother with, you could probably get some use out of something like Immortal Will, but I tend to take Steel Life Force because you don't really have a lot of ways of gaining that HP back. As you noticed when we were playing through a dungeon, we didn't have that many ways of restoring HP, but we had Steel Life Force, so we were able to use that against the boss, and it gave us like a 50% HP bonus. Then we still already had our temp HP, so that wasn't even a debate. So it's a nice sort of security option to have. And finally, Eldritch Wave. Eldritch Wave is super cool to have. It plays out very well. It does a lot of damage. It drops 3 Eldritch Blasts all at once. And it has an extremely low cooldown. It's a really good option. From Tainted Scholar, Stench. Once you get to Stench, don't look back. So I guess technically you're a 13 point in here. I tended to take Tainted Lore because it gives me more damage output, but you shouldn't really aim for this one if you want to go this route here. And I would say that Soul Eater is a stronger route to go through with the leveling process, and honestly probably a lot more fun route to go than either of these trees, at least at current. But that's it. There's not too much to Warlock. There's not too much to keep focus on. Pretty much all of this stuff here is just the stuff that I went through. If you take off the Double Strike and the Brace, neither of which are doing particularly any work for this build, so those past lives don't matter. As for gearing, Charisma, Charisma, Charisma. Basically, that's it. You could take anything else after that, but Charisma first. And as I said, not very difficult. Not a complex build at all to make. And since it's free now, which is a really big thing, you can make this build. The Aasimar is not, but technically Aasimar is actually harming this build rather than helping it, so a free-to-play race is a better option for a Warlock than Aasimar. But that being said, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed what we did today, make sure to hit that like button like it owes you money. Tie a heavy-ass rock to your comment and drop it right in the comment section down below. If you didn't, then still do all that fun stuff below. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a magnificent day.